night train.
All right, y'all. Welcome everybody into the Night Train podcast, episode 6, brother.
Episode 6, Drew. We made it to episode 6.
Hey, man, look, some people been tapped out by now. After 1 or 2, man, hey, they're gonna let it go. But hey, we gonna ride this train all the way to the end. Pause. But how we feeling, my dog, Kel?
Hey, man, the night train is growing, man. We got a lot of people joining us on Facebook, on Instagram. We got the subscribers increasing on YouTube, man. I like that, Drew. I feel like we becoming the voice, man. I like it.
Hey, man, listen, I'm all for becoming the voice of the people, man. You know, we want to make sure that we keep everything authentic, everything real, everything down to earth as possible. And the thing I like, man, I want everybody to realize and understand we are not out for salacious content. That is not what we're here for at all, 0%. So if you come here thinking that we finna just be biased or one-sided, this is not the podcast for you. We are here to get the answers that everybody really wants to know, especially the individuals that's really trying to make changes here in Bogalusa. You know what I mean, Kel? Like the ones that's tired of the back and forth, the complaining, the ones that's here for solutions. That's what we here for. We are a solution-based podcast, you know? So, we're going to continue on. We're going to continue this train moving forward to trying to see and experience a better Bogalusa overall, you know? Speaking of which, I heard that you had an interesting conversation over the last couple of days, Brother Kev, and I'm curious to know the contents of that conversation, man. You know, what you got for us, man?
I'm gonna start off with this, Drew. I said a lot in episode 5. I went back and I watched it and I listened to it about 3 or 4 times, and I said a lot. You know, I took a lot of heat for some people, man. I took a lot of heat because I'm spitting. Now I want everybody to understand. I'm talking from my experience, my point of view, from what I see, and I'm just saying what everybody else saying. I'm just being the voice. That's all I'm doing. And I took a lot of heat, man. And I want to sit here and I'm gonna say this, Drew. I stand by it. I stand by everything I said.
Hey, I couldn't stop laughing, man, because when I went back and watched, man, I said my boy Kel got the Denzel hand fingers going. My boy had
I stand by it, huh? That's what I'm talking about.
My
Drew.
boy had a Denzel hand going that one, man. Hey, man, listen, I knew you was real when you was throwing the Denzel pointers out there, man. I said, oh yeah, my boy in his bag tonight, man. But yo, run it, man, run it.
So I want to start off by saying this. I talked to O Reed, man, and we had like an hour-long conversation. And it was a conversation with men talking about what we spoke on. O Reed did say, like, he commends like the way we weren't blaming, we were asking questions. We were asking the right questions. And one of the main things that he thought of was when I said, why doesn't O Reed be a bigger brother to Tyron? Why wasn't it he helping him along the way when he started? And I don't want to get too much into it because O did say he's gonna come on the show.
He said, good to hear that.
He said in a few weeks, give him some time because he did not want to respond off of emotion, and I respect that. I respect that. So he said he's gonna come on, but I will say he said he tried. He said he tried to have conversations at the very beginning. I have not spoken to Tyron. So I want to put that out there. I have not talked to Tyron as far as a response or anything. I'm just relaying a message. I did tell O that I would come on here and say that. And there's no animosity between me and O. And the way he came, like he called me because I mentioned his name. I name dropped him. Hey, I said his name and hey, look, he called. And he wanted to have a conversation. And we had that conversation. It was a good conversation. And like moving forward, like I said, he's going to come on the show because we got questions. You know, the city has questions. Everybody's saying all this other stuff. People got questions and we're going to talk about it. Yeah. And that's it, man.
Yeah. All right, man, listen, shout out to Pastor O Reed, man, because I'm telling you, man, a lot of people lead with their emotions and won't allow the fact, just the sense of grown men, like I feel like that's lost in today's time when it comes to how we interact or deal with one another. You know, if you're feeling some type of way about something, just call and have a conversation, man. Pull up, have a conversation, state your side, I mean, you know, I know we was joking and playing around, you know, you know, in the beginning of the pod, but I really respect him for making that call and reaching out. I really respect him for you know understanding that you know you gotta find the humor and the seriousness in situations and not taking anything personal or letting the emotions get in the way. So I man, look, shout out to you, Pastor Reed, for reaching out and you know giving the people a chance to ask the questions that is on everybody's mind and hearts. Go ahead, what you was about to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm thinking about how we started off the show with the joke and all the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and we talked about that too, right?
Uh-huh.
And he said, don't want to put words in his mouth, but basically he's saying that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I sound a little disrespectful when I say, oh, because you know he coached me in high school, but Pastor O'Ree, you know, he is saying that is not the case with the whole food stamp situation. And when he comes on, we'll get that squared away. But I want him to explain it. I don't want to explain it. And he did mention that all the council information, right? The things about city council that I was saying, I still do stand by that. Okay, I stand by that too. But he's saying there's a different side of it. And I also told him that if there's anybody on the city council that wants to come on and talk,
Right.
let's talk about it, because we have questions, the city wants answers, and I think it's unfair that, you know, I understand its rules of when you have city council meetings, and not everybody attends those meetings, and not everybody watches on YouTube. So I feel like this would be a great platform for people to come on and say what they have to say. And I look at it as you and I holding people accountable, Drew. That's how I look at it.
Right. And this is not trying to make us judge, jury, or executioner or anything like that. This is I want to make sure that even like council members, Pastor Reed, even Mayor Tyron, you know, understand that we are a part of the population that we represent. We not above it. We not beyond it. We don't feel like we better than anybody. We're just two young black men that we're just tired of seeing the back and forth and Bogalusa being the butt of every joke. That is literally it. We don't hire whatever needs to be done or whatever needs to be done on a computer on a community part needs to be clear. And that's something that I feel like we've been suffering from as a community for so long is me and you kind of spoke about this. You have to pick a side. And I think people like you, people like me, and others alike are just tired of that. Like it should be only one side, and it should be. I don't care if it's old, young, black, white, whatever. I mean, you can not like me as a person. I can not like you as a person, but we have to understand that we don't have to eat together every night. You know, we don't have to go to each other barbecue. We don't have to. But when it comes to the city and the children and the progress of this city, that's the things that have to be set aside in order to accomplish true progress. So that's what it is that we're targeting. So anybody out there that's watching the pod that hear our points of views or feel attacked in any type of way, please don't think it's any type of attack or us trying to say that we're better in any type of way. It's just the fact that we just want some clarity and we want a clear direction. That is literally it, you know. So again, like I said, go ahead.
Let me just say this. My mama gave me a curse word quota. Okay, can only say too many curse words. All right, everybody know Miss Karen H. Okay, all right, I ain't not getting in trouble by my mama. All right, but I will say this to your point. If let's just be talking. If you don't have the vision or the goal of Bogalusa being great, I can't fuck with you.
Absolutely.
And if that's not your goal, and I don't care what your title is, I don't care what position you hold. If you don't see Bogalusa being on the pedestal in however many years, I can't mess with you. I really can't, because like I said in the last episode, you're getting in the way of my vision, and that is the case. That's how I look at it. And something else you said a few minutes ago, which was a blatant lie. You said there's two young men on the podcast. There's only one, because you old as fuck. Sorry, Mom. Sorry. No, and all right, now I'm calling my sister old, but I mean...
I'm about to say, man, you gotta call a lot of people old now.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Wait, no.
Your whole friend base is my class, man. So
You're right. I apologize. We're gonna take that out. No, we're not. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, man. And then speaking of that, man, birthday coming up next week on the 21st on Friday. So y'all make sure y'all send a boy a happy birthday, man. Shout me out. If you see me in public, man, it's one more time around in my 30s, man. I got one more go, Kill. One more go
Man,
before the big 4-0, baby.
how
One
your
more
knees
go before
feel?
the
How
big
your back
4.
feel?
Oh man, that went out in 30 at 33, 34. That more that jump start to crack, man. So yeah,
Trust me,
man.
I
One more.
understand that. I do understand that portion of it. Hey, I know when it's about to rain, man.
Yeah, it
That
happens quick.
that left knee. What you
It
doing for your
happens
birthday?
quick. Man, I got a little day planned with the fam on Sunday. We're gonna start it off with some hey man, I've been working on the family Chris, man, for our family. And shout out to Jazz, Link Art, tattoo artist out there in Franklinton, Jaslyn Tate. She been helping me design a family crest, and she's gonna simplify it for us so that we can turn it into a tattoo. And me and the whole fam, we gonna start off down there getting tattoos. Now I don't know if my mom, she Virgin Moses ain't getting tattooed, but this will be Duke first tattoo, and I'm gonna make sure I record it for all y'all so y'all can see, cause this fool hate needles, man. So
So
I know
he can post shots down people's mouth, but he can't take a
he
needle.
got.
Okay,
Yeah, man, he
all right.
freak out over that, man. So we gonna start out there and let her tat the family up, and then we gonna head to the French Quarter Market down there to go visit some of the black vendors down there that I'm familiar with. And we gonna wrap up at it's this restaurant in New Orleans, black owned restaurant called Mondays that I've been wanting to check out, and I think that's what we gonna wrap everything up, man. Hopefully we'll be back at the house by 4 or 5. I'm old, man. I like daytime stuff, man. Hey, forget all that
Hey
nighttime
man,
stuff.
let's just have a big party at Duke's for your birthday, man.
Hey, man, listen, like, not.
Since you outside now, you was outside for Mardi Gras.
Hey, I told you, man. I'm still recharging my social battery at the moment, man. There was a lot. There was a lot going on there, man. But nah, man. I thought about. I think I'm gonna do that at 40. I think that's what I'm gonna do for my 40th. I'm gonna have because I've never had a actual like party like big party or whatever. So I think for 40, I'm gonna set some stuff up and just try to have a real nice event, real nice time. So just hold that energy for 40.
Man, we gonna have to get Stunner. Y'all gonna have a Stunner and Drew Holiday.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I might reach out to my boy, man, because he's a man. Listen, man,
Ain't y'all birthday around the same time?
it's around the same time. I think matter of fact, it might be the same weekend if I'm not mistaken. It mightn't be next weekend.
Man,
He
y'all
might
go
celebrate
ahead,
his
get
next weekend.
together. Y'all have something at Duke's, man.
Yeah, man, turn up, man. Like that'll be
Fourth Street, whole weekend.
what.
Do it all over again.
You know what I'm saying? Like that wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm gonna reach out, see if my boy having him and Whitney, see if they'll let me, join in on the occasion and see. But no, I'm looking forward to that, man. I was 39, got one more year, to enjoy these 30s, man, before that next decade, jump off. So yeah, that's what the plan is for
Most
me and the
definitely.
fam. So yeah.
We're not gonna hold y'all too long on this intro. We got Sheriff Jason Smith coming to join us tonight.
Yes, sir.
So we'll have him on the pod, man. Shout out to him for taking time out of his busy schedule to come join the night train with us tonight, man.
Absolutely,
But
man.
we got a few topics, man. We gonna
Yeah.
you want to jump into this 50-50 relationship?
Oh man, listen. I don't know if I want to jump into that hornet's nest, man, because man,
You see things on the social medias about
yes,
people going back and forth about the 50-50.
yeah, man.
What you think about
This
the 50?
hey, look, I'm gonna say it like this. When I was a child, and when I say child, I don't mean like a kid in adolescence. I mean like early mid 20s. When I was a child, I thought as a child, like the old people say. But when
Now,
I
see,
became a man,
you're getting old. See, that's what I was just talking about.
when I became a man, I put away childish things, and that includes the thoughts, man. And I don't know. I know this. I know this is not a popular opinion amongst the generation that came after us, but I used to feel that way until I realized what it took to actually take care of a full family. Like I used to be one of them type of young men that was like, oh no, man, when I get married, she ain't gonna have to pay for nothing. She gonna stay at home. She ain't gonna have to work. She ain't gonna have to do this, that. I want to stay at home wife. And man, listen, let me tell you something, Kev.
Them bills high.
Oh man, listen, man, and I work hard, Kev. I ain't one of you type of men out here that slacking. Like I work sun up, sun down, leave there, come and run my own business, man. I work with my brother, man. I even drive for sport when I have to, man. Whatever it takes to make sure that everything is covered and the ladies are taken care of, my son is taken care of. But even with that being the case, Kev, like man, listen, if put it like this. I'm gonna put it like this. It is possible for me to pay everything, and Bay don't have to worry about nothing at all. She just keep her money, do whatever she want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, if that's the case, man, we gonna be one boring family, fam. It ain't gonna be no vacations. It ain't gonna be no nights out to go eat. It ain't gonna be no it's taking every drop to cover everything for 3 kids. Well, 2, because my daughter's a little bit older, but you know how it is with them early 20 kids. You will find out soon, especially the girls, man. It's still gonna be a cash out me every other day that's coming through. Even though they have it, they just want daddy to give it to them. So,
Man, my daughter, she got a cash app linked to my phone, right?
That's
She got more in her cash app
that
than I got in my cash app, Drew.
absolutely, man.
I'd be like, who sent you $20? My aunt be just flowing, flowing. Why you getting all this money? Mimi didn't give me $5 when I was not playing, but still,
Hey, but so it's, I learned that lesson that a lot of that talk is ego talk. Now don't get me wrong. There's some men out there that, listen, they could do it. They were blessed to have one of them jobs and that's capable of covering every single thing plus the extracurriculars, and I'm not knocking them at all. It's just my goal. What I found out when I got a family and we got together was I value time with my family more than I value the dollar, and what I've learned is that the high paying jobs, because I've had them, the high paying jobs are the ones that you're going to see less and less of your family. So America kind of forces you into this position as a man, as either you're going to have a dysfunctional family that's well taken care of, or you're going to have, a functional, healthy family that might have some struggle moments here and there, and that's kind of the choice I personally have experienced throughout my life. So to each his own, but me personally, we are perfectly fine in my household which is why I love my wife, because she'll tell me straight up, like, hey, the water bill only XYZ. Let me get that. Let me get this. Let me help you out with this. So, you ain't got to worry about it. And that helps me so much, because now if I do have something planned, and I think me and you discussed this, now if I do have something planned, or birthdays come up, or Valentine's Day, and all these different things, I'm not stressing trying to take care of all that, and I can still spoil them and treat them the way that, I want them to be treated. So it's a give and a take thing absolutely for sure. But that's just my personal experience and, opinion about it.
Man, Drew, when you started listing all the jobs you have, I understand it.
Yeah.
Like, I know people on social media, they be like, he be here, he be there, he work here. Look, Drew, I work for the airlines. Mm-hmm. I work for the NFL. I got my photography business.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I still need help with a little something. Because look, to your point, you have all the funds and you can do it. Mm-hmm. But if you can't, if I need a little help with the internet bill or with the lights, if I'm paying all that, we're not gonna see those trips to Europe. It ain't happening. We not gonna be able to go out to eat. We're not gonna be able to go, take this trip if along the line those $200, $300 bills, aren't taken care of. Now, like to your point, I'm not saying that I can't. But I think when you see the argument on 50-50 relationships online, like females just like, you know what? If he can't do this, then I'm not messing with him. I had a good conversation with my classmates, and we was actually drunk on 4th Street during Mardi Gras. See the type of stuff we talk about.
Yeah.
But and they're both married. And it was me, Katie, my classmates, and we were all talking about it. And they understood and they were agreeing that bills are high, that sometimes I may have it and you don't, or you may have it and I don't.
Right.
And we are able to coexist and help each other out when needed. Because like I said, along the way, if you paying for everything, everything, those luxuries, those red bottoms not happening. You know, your birthday trip isn't happening.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you. Let me show you my December, Drew.
Yeah.
This is my December.
Hmm.
You have anniversary.
Right.
You have my daughter birthday.
Hmm.
You have Katie birthday.
Hmm.
You have Christmas,
Hmm.
and then a week later, my mama birthday,
Hmm.
Jordan birthday. All of that is in 30 days, Drew.
30 days, man. Listen,
30 days. I'm in February getting ready for December.
man, I can't agree with you. I'm prepping right now for for my broke season, as I call it, because I got Cam and Chloe's birthday, which is both my daughters, are in the same month. That's June. They are literally within 6 days of each other, I think. And then you got Mother's Day. That's on top of that. And gentlemen like ourselves, we take care of our wives, mothers, as well as our own mothers, as well as our wives' mothers, you know what I'm saying, as well as our any aunties we close to, anything like that. So you got that. So that's coming off of Valentine's Day right behind it. You got Mother's Day. Rose's birthday is literally the next month right after that. You know, so this whole span of block of time is constant money, you know, that you have to extra curricular money, not just the everyday bill money and thing. And it's not that I'm complaining or anything like that. It's just the fact that
That's
I
what you
don't
got to
think
do.
that's what you got to do. And I don't think that for men that care, at least put it like that, for men that care, I feel like would agree with us wholeheartedly, simply because you don't. And this is funny because I hear a lot of men say this, and I really be wanting to say this shit to be petty. But a lot of men be like, "Hey man, I show my girl I love every day." It's like, fam, you on when Valentine's Day and stuff like that come around, it's like, nah, bro, like, you know, that's a cop out, man. You only saying
Mm-hmm.
that because you're not creative for one, and you really don't like your girl. Like you really, you just really just let's just keep it a bean, bro. Let's keep it a bean. You really don't like your girl, and you don't have the creativity to know what to get her that she's actually going to enjoy. So you try to throw that, oh yeah, I make her feel special everyday bullshit, you know, out there. Either they'll say shit like, oh, it's just another day. Oh, it's just like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just the fact that I feel like to the men that care, that
Mm-hmm.
care about the happiness, we understand that flowers are gonna rot. You know, bro, Kel, for Valentine's Day, my guy, I spent $380 on roses, man. Just roses. That's a whole, bill. $380 on roses that lasted a week and a half. You know, and that's for and some of the roses, a half dozen roses was for my 7-year-old who, bruh, after she saw him the first time and showed her friends, she don't even
That was
remember
it.
shit. That was it.
That
You
was
know what I'm
it.
saying? But I like her. It's not
Yeah.
that I just love her. I like her as well. So I want her to, to still enjoy the fun that comes along, and the love, and know that, hey, like my father, no matter what, is going to make sure that I feel special on those days, so I really feel like when men that say those type of things don't really like their significant other. They might love them, not saying that they don't love them, but they don't like them enough to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
I just get upset. Don't compare me with the dope boys. That's my only problem.
Man,
Like,
I
look,
was just about to say that.
like, don't
Cause
compare me with what they
cause you
capable of.
know what? Now I ain't knocking nobody hustles. All
Absolutely
right.
not.
You
Not hating
know,
on them at all. Yeah.
not at all. And we about to have a sheriff on, so not too much on drugs. All right. Not too much on drugs. But I think, you and I talked about this a few days ago. And and this is coming from, now kudos to all the guys. Man, look, if you a guy and doctor, attorney, 6 figures, and
Respect.
6 figures ain't nothing no more. But if you making 6 figures and you are able to take care of everything, kudos to
Respect.
you, my brother.
Respect. Hey, respect.
Because hey, shout out to you.
Respect.
But I look at it like this, and it's not even to the average man, not even the average man, but like I feel like you get more, whether it's time, whether it's a pop-up date, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a pop-up gift. I feel like you get more out of and not even a 50-50 relationship, a 60-40,
Mm-hmm.
a 80-20.
Mm-hmm.
See, they don't talk about those relationships because
Right.
I'm not in a 50-50.
Yeah.
It's more 75-25, and it
Absolutely.
depends on the week too. But so I think to the women or whoever that are like, hey, if that's what you're going for, if that's what you want, hey man, I hope you find them. You know, I
Right.
hope you find them, and I
Right.
hope you live the life that you were looking for. But being realistic to
Yeah.
this climate we live in, this economy that we live in,
Mhm.
it's gonna be very difficult to find you a 100% to zero man. All right.
And then that's going to actually look at you as equal instead of another responsibility. And that's what I feel like, you know, a lot of women don't understand. Like these type of men that you're talking about, um, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are going to view you as another bill and responsibility. It is hard to love someone equally if you view them as just another bill on the sheet, you know, or just another something to take care of. You know, they're gonna look for somebody that can equal their tenacity when it comes to that extra mile, going that extra mile. But
Yeah.
I do want to ask you this though.
Mm-hmm. And
What,
we're gonna have to wrap up in a minute because the sheriff
yeah.
waiting on us. But
All right. Say less.
go ahead. No, go
Last
ahead.
last question. So, what percentage, if you had a guesstimate, what percentage of the women that say that they have to be with a man that take care of everything versus the women that say, no, I don't mind helping. What percentage would you say is single, and
Single.
what percentage?
I knew you was gonna say that. I knew it.
What
Based
percentage would
off
you?
of what I see
Mhm.
in the comment section of these various social media sites,
Uh
100%.
huh.
And they may be single, they may be divorced. I don't know,
Yeah.
but look, man, I understand tax brackets, I understand income tax, I understand the economy, I understand these tariffs that's going on in the world, I understand what's about to be taxed. But what I see, I think they're all single, man,
You think the majority of yeah.
because I don't think women also understand the mental stress that goes on in a man's head
Mm-hmm.
when you know I'm probably about to dish out 100K on throughout the year on
Mm-hmm.
gifts,
Mm-hmm.
on luxuries. That's what my mama called it. Growing up, that's a luxury. You don't need that.
Yep.
And I think, and I may be exaggerating when I say 100K, but you know, you're gonna spend a lot of money on gifts, on
Mm-hmm.
pop-up events, on a birthday party, on anything. And it depends on
Just
your family
because.
size. Yeah.
Yep. Just because.
So men really, and I'm gonna speak for men because I know y'all can say it's not true, whatever. There is a mental toll that we don't talk about.
Absolutely.
When something needs to be paid, we gonna be like, I got it, I'm gonna take care of it. We don't even know how. But by the time it's due, it's gonna be paid for.
It's gonna be taken care of.
We gonna get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But man, let's we gonna have to revisit that conversation. But
Yeah, especially because that whole the mental toll, we can have a whole pod just off of the unspoken mental tolls that men don't talk about when it comes to relationship life. Now, you know,
yeah,
I can't really speak for the single men, but I'm just talking about relationship life. You know,
yeah.
yeah, we definitely got to revisit that.
All right, man. Let me put this hookah down. Now, you know, my mama don't like me smoking this hookah on here, man. And BJ too. My brother-in-law BJ said, "Man, I don't like that you be smoking on there." And you know what? As a respect for the sheriff, I'm not about to be doing all this smoking on here, man. Because we about to get into a real good conversation. And so, all right, today we got a very special guest joining us on the Night Train podcast. We have Sheriff Jason Smith, who was elected as a sheriff of Washington Parish in 2023 after campaigning to make Washington Parish safer. Before being elected, Sheriff Smith retired in 2016 from the United States Marine Corps as a lieutenant colonel and returned to his family farm in Mount Hermon. Sheriff Smith graduated with a class of 68 from the Slidell Regional Police Academy in May 2024 and served on the Louisiana Brand Commission. He is a member of the American Legion, Post 24, and regularly attends the Mount Hermon Methodist Church. And he lives in Mount Hermon with his wife, Rebecca, and 5 children. Let's welcome the sheriff to the Night Train podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So, Drew, you want to get things started, or how you want to do this with
Oh, you got
Sheriff
let
Smith
you.
tonight?
Yeah, I'll
All
let you
right.
go. He look like he's equipped and ready to go for anything we throw at him. So I'll let you go ahead and
Right.
start it off. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into the most recent events. During Mardi Gras, there was a tragic shooting in Franklinton. Briefly after, after the Mardi Gras parade. And as far as, I don't want to touch too much on the shooting itself, but there was an uproar on Facebook about the town of Franklinton wanting to just cancel the parade, right? And briefly after that Thursday, there was a meeting of all the city officials and the crews came together and talked about the cancellation of the parade. And I want to kind of touch on that and how we got to that point and your role or the sheriff's office role in that.
Okay. The first thing is the meeting that you're referring to on Thursday was really my idea. I'm the one that called it, and I asked some of the city officials not to come specifically because I wanted to kind of clear the air. On that Sunday night, there were some things that happened that resulted in the shooting behind the Valero in Franklinton, and it was very emotional. There was a lot of people around, and I got the feeling that because they tend to be emotional, and it's hard to diagnose a problem like that in today's world, that the easy answer was going to be to cancel the parade. Now, I should say up front that it's not obvious to me that a sheriff should even get involved. And in fact, probably a smart political move would for me to have been completely silent, not say anything, and say, well, it's a town issue, the town sorted it out. Sheriff, and I don't need to get involved in town business. But because of the history over the last 4 years in Franklinton, I knew that there was a divide and that people were unwilling or unable to talk to each other on both sides. And I felt like I was in a good position to kind of be a mediator. So I had gotten the feeling, nobody ever said publicly that the parade was going to get canceled. But I think there was a feeling on both sides that the easy answer would be to cancel the parade. And it's not hard to draw those events together to say, because the parade happened, there was a big party after. Because there was a big party after, some people came to the party. Because there was a lot of people there and it was uncontrolled, there was a gun. Because there was a gun, somebody got shot. And so you don't know where to break that chain. And very often people just start at the beginning and say, okay, well, the easy answer is to cancel the parade. And again, but nobody ever publicly said that. On the Monday, I kind of got a feeling that might be, before anybody could say anything publicly and push everybody to their respective corners and nobody's going to talk, I just kind of leaned into it and put out a video that said, hey, listen, I don't know what the answer is to this, but we're going to get together and we're going to sort it out. Now, y'all are content creators, and you know how difficult it is sometimes to put something out that is provocative enough that people are interested and have an opinion. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to put something out that was provocative in a way so that they could argue about it a little bit on Facebook, because that will clear some of the emotions out of the room. And then I worked behind the scenes to try to meet with all the people that were involved, because I wanted them to agree to something before we actually got to the Tuesday meeting. We basically had a week. So my idea, I met with the parade organizers and, tried to get their point of view. I met with the city officials, tried to get their point of view. And then I said, I think the best thing to do is have a meeting, an open meeting where people can voice their concerns. I didn't really expect to be the subject of, I guess I underestimated how quickly people can mischaracterize their statements and assume that I was for something that I wasn't, because I was never going to cancel Mardi Gras. It's not even in my purview to cancel Mardi Gras. I just want the town to do the best they can to host safe and effective events for everybody. And my goal was to get people to see it for what it is. I think the benefit of the shooting, and this is going to sound strange, and I know I can already hear Facebook going crazy. Hey, the sheriff said there was a positive aspect of the shooting. But it kind of clarified in people's minds that today is different than when the parade started 40 years. Just the security environment is different. The types of kids are different. The things they have access to is different. The availability of cars for people to come from further away is different. But we're still looking at it through the lens of 48 years ago. So there's not regular meetings between the police and the parade organizers. There's no barricades set up. We didn't have any real security plan that was briefed to the people. So everybody's got their own set of expectations, is what I'm saying. So the benefit of this would say to kind of jolt everybody loose and say, hey, listen, for next year, we're going to have to plan this out. And the benefit or the good thing is that we don't have to reinvent this wheel. You look at Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish, St. Tammany Parish, they're all operating Mardi Gras and special events like all throughout the year at a much higher level than we are. So we can just take the best practices from all these places and incorporate it into Washington Parish. And, I mean, we're on the up. We're growing. This is where we need to be. I wanted to look at it from a planning and operational standpoint. I wanted to take the emotions out of it. And in order to do that, I thought it was going to be beneficial to host a meeting where people could get emotional. I'm not going to get upset. They can yell at me, but that provides all the officials, the kind of the top cover, to have a meeting on Tuesday where they can do what they did, which was form a committee. They're going to study their permitting process, and they're going to plan out special events in Franklinton. So if you focus on the result, we got exactly what we needed to get out of it.
So I'll kind of touch on what I said last episode, because you went back and watched it. Thank you for watching it. And we also went back and watched your video. So I'll try to find the post that someone put about how you were talking about like World War I and what led to those events and how it was compared to the parade. I know there was a big uproar on social media how that was being
I can
compared.
talk to that real quickly if you want to, why I use that analogy.
Go ahead.
So I had a bunch of different analogies in my head, but the analogies I was coming up with were too emotionally charged. There's lots of examples where things start small and then they escalate quickly, and it's not really clear why it led to that. I mean, you can look at the George Floyd incident. I had thought about using the Capitol riots as an example. Like, it's not obvious that just because somebody's in D.C. that there's going to be riots at the Capitol. But the more I was thinking about doing this, every example I was using, I felt like people were just going to argue about the example and miss the larger point. So my point in bringing up World War I is I thought it was far enough away that nobody was really going to get very emotional about it, but they would be familiar enough with what started this chain of events that led to the worst thing that's ever happened in the world. You can very clearly make the line from World War I to World War II, the rise of communism, the Cold War, dropping of atomic bombs, and all that other stuff. Yeah. But I think people kind of missed the larger point. My point was never to say that the parade caused the shooting. The only people that caused the shooting are the shooters themselves. But there are people that failed to prevent it. And the police are one of them. The town's one of them. We've got things that we could do better in the future. And that was really the only reason for why I started talking about it in the first place.
Yeah, and I think people also kind of, just from their feelings toward it, and that's one thing that Drew and I talk about all the time. We speak about moving Bogalusa, being progressive and what it can be, but you have a small group of people that want to do that. But you're going to have a bunch of people having a conversation about Mardi Gras and events and things because that's where they feel like they're impacted. But I think more so they looked at it like on social media or even when I heard it, it was more so of, okay, we see a lot of times that Black people have an event or something happens and immediately it wants to be shut down. And even though that may not be the case from a law enforcement perspective, or if you're looking at it like, okay, this was the cause of the event, we want to go ahead and cancel it. From our culture and from our side of things, plenty of times we've seen things get shut down because it is a bunch of Black people getting together, having an event, and we don't want anything to happen. Or in the past, something has happened, so we want to get a hold of it. And that was the perspective of us viewing the video. And, being that you have such a large following, because how large is Franklinton? What's the population of Franklinton?
I think 3,500 by the census, but it's hard to judge because Franklinton is the parish seat and it is essentially the crossroads of Highway 16, Highway 25, Highway 10. It's a lot bigger than the 3,500. There's a lot of people that live, work, shop in Franklinton that don't actually live within the city limits. But 3,500, I think, is what the census says.
So you got 3,500 people, and I know you're for the entire parish, but your video had 80,000 views. Yep. It reached 80,000 people, and with such a large platform like that, it was so easy to just spread and create that conversation. Now, to your point, if that's what you wanted to create, you did it.
And honestly, that was. I started these videos back during the campaign, and we can talk about the campaign at some point.
Yeah.
But I recognized that that was going to be my opportunity to get in front of a lot of people that I would never get a chance to get in front of. And I felt like I had some legitimate things to talk about, and I was able to communicate in a way that made sense to a lot of people. But I think most people would not appreciate how difficult it is to look into a camera that you're filming yourself and come up with a 2-minute concise video that's going to try to impact people in any way. But because I started that during the campaign and kept it going, I recognized that after the shooting on last Sunday, that there wasn't anybody else that was going to be able to reach enough people to try to generate a conversation. And so I tried to do what I could. Like, I'm trying to add value wherever I can. Like I said before, it's not obvious to me that I should have even gotten involved, but things work out. You know, you don't get a chance to choose your opportunities sometimes, and I wanted to try to help where I could.
Yeah, and I want to let Drew chime in after. I have one more thing just because it's related to Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm.
You were pictured with, I think it was at the courthouse, where through a few Mardi Gras crews or organizations, they had like a reception, and it was a very quote unquote white photo of, you know, it wasn't any, you know, black or brown people in it. And being a part of a crew and being, you know, the black crews that are in Bogalusa, in those circles, it was like, okay, well, you know, we weren't invited. Did anybody hear about that? And I know you probably weren't on the committee to invite people, but I think that's just another point of when, you know, people are saying that we aren't being included in things. So I just want to, if you have any take on that.
No, I think you're right. I get my picture taken at lots of places that I don't control, but that's not really the issue. The issue is that all of the crews in Washington Parish need to be invited to things if we're saying that this is going to be a Mardi Gras event. We actually reached out to the crew of Pepe and the crew of Unity and tried to get them to the sheriff's office for a toast. But for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. But I'm committed to doing it for next year. I think the thing that gets misinterpreted sometimes, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, is that people generally are, I don't think racism is as big a deal. People are generally, down to their core, most people are insecure and they're self-centered. And so that brings them out as being petty and inconsiderate. And it's inconsiderate not to think of the other Mardi Gras crews if you're saying that this is a Mardi Gras event, if that makes sense. It's just, I mean, I think the crews were rightly overlooked. I mean, they're right to feel like they were overlooked in that sense.
Yeah, and I don't want to get Drew too much. We talk about the Mardi Gras and the parades and Mecca enough, and I know Drew has his take on it. But I want to get
not
you
at all.
started.
I was curious. You know, he kind of touched on a couple of times, but you know, I feel like in a lot of ways, because you kind of made the statement that racism is not really that much a part of it, and you know, and that's something that I feel like it might be a perspective thing. I don't know, but I'm just speaking from the black community. We hear that all the time, that, you know, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not really what y'all making it out to be. But I have, put it like this, I have a lot of friends, white friends. I have a lot of white clients, white people that I work with on a regular everyday basis who are in a lot of these rooms. And they tell me, you know, the truth of what goes on. And I'm not, you know, labeling this on you, but they tell me the truth about the individuals that are in these positions and these seats, that the things that they do say behind closed doors. And I kind of just, I want to pose this question to you.
Okay.
In this seat of power that you're in right now, what is your experience with that? Or do you experience that? Is it something that's an untold truth about this area, just the parish, just in general? How people move and speak different ways when they're around the people that they're comfortable to move and speak that way around. And it's not making you guilty of it. It's just the fact that they are more comfortable speaking that way with you. Do you experience that from those positions and seats of power when it comes to, like I was saying, the crews feeling overlooked, or anytime black people have events, it's always because, like, to the point that me and Kel talk about, there's a lot of negative things that happen with the Washington Parish Free Fair. You know, there's a lot of events, bad things that happen, but there's never been talk of shutting it down. You know, and it's from our perspective, is because it's something that is not predominantly ruled and controlled by the black population.
So let me start there and work my way backwards. So
Okay, sure.
the shooting on Sunday night was
Hmm.
compared to the fair, it was compared to the Superdome and some other
Hmm.
things, and say, well, you wouldn't shut those things down. And my pitch to the parade organizers was that the difference is, and this is why I brought up the policies need to change for the town, because what that does is it gives these event planners essentially insurance. It gives them
Hmm.
insulation from bad things that are going to happen. It is true that bad things can happen anywhere, but we're in the business of trying to limit the potential for bad things to happen.
Hmm.
You have to go through a planning process. You have to put things in place for the fair. And I'll talk about the fair specifically. The fair pays $60,000 for the entire week for security. So about
Hmm.
$30,000 to me and $30,000 to Franklinton PD. And we do security briefings. We do threat assessments. I plan out where people are going to go, what the posts are going to be. So if something bad happens, the fair is really insulated from it because we've
Hmm.
gone through the planning process. The
Hmm.
problem, and this is what I was trying to get the parade organizers to understand, like if you organize and plan something like it's 50 years ago.
I don't want to feel like that I'm cutting you off, but I want you to be direct with this
Mhm.
because this is something that I feel like that I argue a lot with my community on.
Mhm.
So is it safe to say that basically you're saying that we as black people in the community, and I'm not trying to put this on your jacket in any type of way, but we fail at going through the proper steps and the proper policies in order to make sure or ensure us from not having that stigma placed on our events, so that if something does happen, it's not automatically looked at as, hey, maybe this just needs to be shut down. Is that safe to say?
Well, listen, I think it is safe to say in some circumstances, like I don't have intimate knowledge of every black event and what planning goes into those events in Washington Parish.
Mm-hmm.
I just suspect that people that put on events, I mean, it's generally younger people. Like the
Mm-hmm.
fair's been around for 100 years, so we've had a chance to kind of formalize the process for planning these big events out. Block parties that kind of grow, they all start small. And if you
Mm-hmm.
keep doing them year over year and you still look at it through the same small mindset, it can get out of hand. I mean,
Oh, okay. That's a strong point. Yeah,
Freaknik in Atlanta, it
that's a
doesn't
strong
happen
point.
anymore.
Whoa, whoa,
Why
whoa,
not?
whoa, wait, Sheriff.
Right?
What you know about Freaknik, man?
I grew up in the
Whoa,
90s.
time out. Did you ever go? Did you go? Did you go to Freaknik?
No.
Wait, hold on. You married with kids? Never mind.
Yeah, I
Never
was like,
mind.
yeah, come on, man.
I'm sorry, man.
All right, go ahead.
But you understand what I'm saying? Something that starts small at historically black colleges and then
Mhm.
it continues to grow. And it's kind of, you can't really put your finger on who's organizing it. It's just this big community gathering and it can get out of hand. So my point is only that if you're going to have an event, those backyard days are kind of gone. Like the world has changed to the point where in order to protect these events, because
Mhm.
bad things are going to happen when you get large groups of people together. It doesn't matter who's running it. Bad things are going to
Mhm.
happen. We saw it down in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. Bad things are going to
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
Even if it's not a terrorist attack, bad things can happen. But the
Mhm.
reason that we continue certain events is because they've insulated themselves through their planning in order
Mhm.
to give people the comfort. And that really is what it comes down to. The people that ultimately make the decisions have to feel comfortable that
Mhm.
people that are planning these events take security seriously.
Gotcha. So basically, black people, get y'all shit together. When it comes, if you're gonna plan something, I'm gonna
God.
say it for him. Hey, I'm gonna say it for
Hey,
him
but
because look, this is
on the other
this.
side too.
Wow.
Listen, on the other side too, and that was my pitch to the town was we
Mhm.
got to make it easy on people to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Like there was some miscommunication in the permitting process.
Mhm.
That there was some miscommunication with the plan and the event, or the expectations that were placed on the event organizers.
Mhm.
So the town, any governing body, has to make it easy for people to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they may not do the right thing through
Mhm.
no fault of their own.
Mhm.
But we could still end up with a bad situation.
And I'm saying that jokingly, but that's something that I feel like, and I know I'm gonna have a lot of people, black people, screaming at me and fussing at me about that, but that's something that I have battled with for a while. Me and my brother, we own a seafood restaurant here, and I still remember, and that's what I was gonna get to that point of what, because the truth of the matter is that last point that you just made about making it easier for everybody to be able to, have access to the same policies and understanding the same policies is so true, because the loops that they made me and my brother go through for a seafood license, and to make sure, it was so difficult to get the most simple things done compared to our counterpoints of the white culture who was just, they was breezing through it without a problem, but we were checked we was under so much more of a microscope for every single thing that we did. And that's kind of what I was speaking to in my initial question about, have you had any of those interactions? If you can speak about that, have you had any of those interactions with individuals where you walk away from it like, man, this guy is, there's no way that he should be in this position of power with that retro mindset. And I see the smile come on your face.
Well, I'm smiling because you kind of tied two thoughts together.
Okay.
There are people that I think should not be in positions of authority.
Okay.
There are people that I think should not be in positions of power, but it's not because of any racist thought or expression that they've expressed to me.
Okay.
It's because I just don't think they're cut out for the job that they've got. I think your question is, have I been privy to conversations where people are expressing racist thoughts to me that they would not express in public or to somebody
Absolutely.
else?
Absolutely.
Okay. I have not. No.
Okay.
And I think that people are generally, whether you're black, white, Asian, it doesn't make any difference. You're more comfortable with people that you're more comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And you give people certain leeway based off of a shared culture. And I can't make it any more. I mean, it's not to excuse anything. It's just the way people are wired. It's just the way we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's understandable.
And I think there's probably ways that you would talk to each other that you won't talk to me. I mean, there's ways that it's just the way that our experiences have got us to where we are, if that makes sense.
Well, it does to a certain. My only gripe with that is the fact that when we do it, it's not people that can completely sway or change a complete district or affect the policies of a complete district, if that makes sense what I'm saying. So when people say like, hey, we all do this in private rooms, I don't care if you're just a regular Joe Smo that just works here, but if you are in a position of power that can completely sway the lifestyle or affect the lifestyle of a mass of people, then that's what needs to be eradicated, and I just feel like a lot of that is, even with you saying that it's not because of racism they shouldn't be in that position of power, even if it's because of being underqualified, the reason why they got that opportunity that we didn't get, because that's one of the gripes that we've had for years. Like, we've had a bunch of people who was just as qualified as the person that's in a position of power, but we would have never gotten that shot because of the systemic hold of racism, the hold that it has on our area and our culture. So that's the reason why I was kind of referring to the question, because that when we can get to that point, then I feel like true change will be capable at that point. Then we won't have those discrepancies between making it easier for people to be able to get the information that's needed, or, have access to, this is the way that these are the steps that need to be done, or those meetings that happen, there's not a secret fence that's put up to where we don't even know that they exist. Does that make sense when I'm getting that concept?
Yeah, I think so. I just think that sometimes running a business is hard. Going through the process to navigate government is hard. Mm-hmm. I think very often we want to try to figure out ways or reasons why we're not successful in some things. Mm-hmm. And we forget that really it comes down to people on the other side that are making decisions, and you have to try to communicate to them in a way that is important to them, addressing some of their concerns. It doesn't do us any good to say, well, I want you to meet me on my terms. Like, if you're trying to sell yourself, or if you're trying to sell your business or whatever it is, you've got to sell it. You've got to meet a need that person has. And we're all damaged goods. So some of the people that you're trying to sell are flawed in their perspective. They're flawed in a lot of different ways, but those are the people that are there. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it matches what we hear all the time, because what that comes off to with us is be as white as you possibly can in order to sell to racist white people. Because that's basically our experience. That's basically what you're saying to the businessman who, because I've learned this even dealing just with everyday life, the code switch that we have to go through in everyday life. And please understand, I'm not speaking on ignorance. That's not what I'm speaking on. Meaning, like, I'm not expecting for somebody to just allow me to be ignorant or not knowledgeable about a subject or anything. That's not what I'm speaking on. What I'm speaking on is whenever we do, as a black men, whenever we do everything the way that it's supposed to be done,
The majority of times, the people that are making the decisions for us to even get the yes or no is already swayed by what they see when they see us. They're going to give it, being in competition with a white man that's less qualified or either less capable of whatever it is that we're going after, they're going to already have a leg up. So we hear that a lot. It's like, well, you got to sell yourself to them or make them feel like we don't have anything that they want. We're already behind the eight ball. So the mentality that I'm saying is those people that are in those positions making those choices, they can't be affected unless they're affected by individuals like yourself who look like them, who's not afraid to speak up and say, hey, listen, man, I know we're in the same club. I know, we're friends, this and the third, but this is just wrong. Like you shouldn't be, you can't be afraid to speak out against injustice, regardless if it's going to affect, who you get to go and play golf with next week, and that's what we hear a lot from a black male's point of view, who's went to college, who's got the degrees, who's done everything we're supposed to do, who's played the game the correct way. We still end up losing because the individuals that's making those choices still sell us the same thing that basically you just said. And I'm not putting that on you. I'm just saying it's easy for you to say because that works for you. That doesn't work for us, is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. It is my experience that I don't think most people generally collectivize people in a group. People deal with people on an individual basis. And for whatever reason, people are generally insecure and they're self-centered. And so you got to bake that into the equation when you're trying to pitch them. And whether you're black, white, or anything else, people are generally insecure and they're self-centered. And that makes them be petty sometimes and inconsiderate at other times. Like what would your explanation be for somebody that's been very successful? Somebody like Tyler Perry that's just basically done his own thing and broken off and achieved a huge amount of success?
Mine would be, well, and forgive me when I say this, but you have to keep, I ain't gonna say forgive me, but I know it might be a little harsh for a lot of people, but you're gonna always need some good niggers. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna always need a few
that was
of
a
them.
hard ER.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this is the mentality. But if you look at and I'm the last person. If you look at my track record, if you look like how hard I work, it's not. I'm the last person that's looking for entitlement or handouts because I don't believe in it. Never have believed in it. What I believe in is an equal playing field. If I go to school, if I work my ass off, if I do what's supposed to be done, to be honest with you, I'm really more conservative at heart than anything. I have been at those levels. So when you say that, what I've learned is that if you pick the right black guy to lord over and to make yourself safe, or if you need a shield against the ability for us to say, you're not letting any of us in. So it's like, all right, well, you know what? We'll let a few get to the top so we can point at them and say, hey, look at them. They made it. Look at them. They made it. But then if you look at the track record of those black men that have made it, if you look and see what are they doing for their communities, what are they doing for young black men, that it doesn't exist because they're plants. And I'm not making this a you type of thing. What I'm speaking of is the problem that we seem to be having in our communities when it comes to retro areas like this. And this is something that I have learned, is that the only way to truly correct the issues that we're having in our community is if those people, those white individuals that are walking the line, that are walking that fence line, that know what's going on behind these doors, start to actually speak up. Until that happens, the status quo is going to always stay the same. So we're going to always be kept into this box or this cage that with this imaginary, success hung over our head as if we can actually achieve it, when all actuality, that's not the truth for the majority of us. And I'm just asking you because you're in law enforcement, so you see a lot of these situations of young black men that just don't have the ability to speak about that struggle. So they ended up turning to the streets in order to try to find success or find a way out of the terrible situations that they're living in.
Let me say this. I've sat back in this segment because this is a good conversation. All right, from both ends. I like the back and forth. I like the dialogue. But I think I can make the point that you both are making. And Drew, you know about this. A few years ago, Sheriff, I was going to come back home and open up a hookah lounge. And when I tell you, I went through the steps. I had the timeout building, that's in Bogalusa. That was my building I had. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you the hoops I went through, I'm not going to say the business name, but I had a nearby business talking to the city council, making sure that was blocked, making sure I had a city council person trying to block it and wanted me to go speak and say, well, what is this stuff? Y'all could be smoking marijuana in it. Like, it was so much negativity. Like, people don't even know what it is. It's tobacco. But like, it was so much back and forth. And I had the building, Sheriff. And the thing is, I went through the proper steps. To, get my licenses, and I had all the furniture, I had all the hookahs, I had everything. And it was all shut down. And honestly, people didn't really find out what I was doing, and they didn't know who was doing it until I put a post on Facebook saying it wasn't going to happen. Because, you have to put something in the newspaper when you get an alcohol license, a liquor license, things like that. So when I look at Facebook and all those Bogalusa groups, it was just negative, not even knowing what it is. And when they see me now, they see me on, shooting for the NFL, and they see me traveling, and they think they know me now, but didn't even know who that person was, because they were afraid once they found out that it was going to create so much chaos. That one building was going to create so much chaos. And people don't even understand that was going to be luxury, but it was going to be a nice hangout. It was going to be like a coffee shop. It was going to be something for people to come to. It wasn't going to be a club or things like that. But they looked at it like it was going to cause chaos, because when they found out the color of the skin of the person that was going to do it. And it wasn't even like, no one came to me and said, like, what is this going to be? And it was a big thing. But to the point of both of you, is ignorance, and it is people being blocked. It's both. It is ignorance. It is people being blocked from doing something that they want to do. It was going to be a new thing for people in Bogalusa that haven't experienced it. It's just plain ignorance. It's ignorance. It's racism. It's a combination of both. It really is. And that's coming from my experience for wanting to come and do something for Bogalusa, right? But we're 30 minutes in now. Well, for me, the solution would be to have an open mind and stop living in the 50s and the 60s, and understand if we want Washington Parish, since you're on, if we want Washington Parish to be this great thing, then we need to look at what the other areas are doing. We may not be as big as New Orleans, or we may not be as big as Atlanta or Dallas, but we can take things, and I understand that people don't look that far because they haven't experienced leaving Bogalusa and going to college. They haven't experienced living in larger cities. Mm-hmm. But I think the people that are in position, like yourself, like the various mayors, chief of police, we need to kind of understand that Bogalusa, Franklin, Mount Hermon, Vonderdo, we can be like those big cities on a smaller scale, but the citizens as well need to open their mind. And I typed something down. We talk about race a lot because it is still there, in my opinion. But as people need to understand, you need to look at how people feel. I may say something to you, I may say something to Drew. In my head, it's okay. But how someone else may take it, I think we need to start looking at it that way. We need to start treating people how they want to be treated, and say things and look at it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if I communicated it very clearly, but I think you're exactly right. You got to treat people as people, but you're not going to be successful if you're just expecting people to change the way that they view things. The answer is in your own expectations of them. I try to treat people like, if a blind man bumps into you and knocks you down, you wouldn't be upset about it. But if a guy tried to bump you down or tried to knock you down and missed, because he thought he was doing it on purpose, you'd be upset. But you're objectively worse in the first than you are in the second, that you got knocked down. Does that make sense? Like, if you just treat everybody like a blind guy that can't see where he's going,
you get a different reaction.
You get a different reaction. Like, you're able to deal with him. Like, you just got to give people the benefit of the doubt. And there may be some people that are trying to knock you down on purpose, but you just got to do the best you can. I mean, that's life.
Yeah, I said before you came on, my mom, and out of respect for you as well, but my mom gives me a curse word quota on this podcast. I'm almost about to reach my quota, so I'm not gonna do it. But we've talked. We've gotten heavy into this topic, and we're 30 minutes in. So let's segue to something else. I don't know, Drew, if you have something you want to take on next.
Yeah, I could just ask you, well, what's your ideal officer? Like, what do you feel like they need to be? I see that the BPD, I think it's BPD that's hiring right now, Kev, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
BPD is hiring. Yeah, no experience needed, by the way. You know, if they said they will get the training done for you. But go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I was always curious to know from leadership, because we hear a lot of the fact that American officers are so undertrained. They don't know what to do overall in tough situations, can't really think on their feet. What do you feel like are, what's the criteria you feel like would be for the nobody's perfect, but the quintessential officer? What would you say that would be?
The biggest thing is communication skills. I
Mm-hmm.
need them to be physically fit. I need them to be able to be confident in their own person and the ability to communicate. Outside of that, most things are trainable. I think we confuse what training actually is. I'm more interested in education. Like, training is a way to do certain things, and there is a certain amount of training that goes into being a sheriff's deputy.
Mm-hmm.
But there also needs to be a certain amount of education. I want you to look at things a certain way. I want you to think about things a certain way. And I think we've done a good job since the 1st of July in getting people to think about things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I look every morning, or try every morning, to look at our dispatch notes and look at the types of calls that we go on. 90% of them have nothing to do with law enforcement. 90% of them, maybe even a higher percentage of them, have nothing to do with holding somebody accountable to the violation of a law. A lot of it has to do with the resolution of problems that people have created for themselves or that they can't solve by themselves. Lots of family disputes, a lot of mental health episodes, a lot of people being petty, a lot of people being insecure, a lot of people causing conflict through their overreaction to certain things or perceived slights. I think most people would be amazed at the difficult tasks that police officers today have. But that's the job. I mean, that's what is required. So I'm trying to do my best to put police officers in a position where they can get to know the people in the communities in which they serve. Because if our job is conflict resolution, they're going to be better if they know the parties that are involved. Like, if they have intimate knowledge of the background, if they know the personalities of the people involved. Very often, law enforcement agencies will just respond to things randomly. We organize the sheriff's office differently on the 1st of July, where we would have districts that deputies would patrol in the same area so that they get to know the people that are involved. It's all about relationships. The more you know people, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to have a lot more tools at your disposal. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of that, do you guys do you have any type of psychological evaluations periodically? Is it annually? Is it monthly? Like, do you do anything centered around the officers' mental health?
Yeah, we actually I have chaplains assigned to each district. One of my goals was to have an outlet for officers to talk in case of or after critical incidents. I wanted them to be able to form a relationship with the chaplain. And I also wanted one of the requirements to be a chaplain in the sheriff's office, so I think we've got 6 of them now, is that they have to do ride-along 6 hours a month, because I wanted to put the chaplains in a position to meet people in the community that they would not ordinarily come into contact with. Very often the calls we go on, like I said, don't require handcuffs. They just require somebody with some life experience and some negotiating skills and some conversation skills. So that was the goal for that. In addition to that, we've also done some mental health first aid training that all the deputies have gone through. And I actually met today with a guy from Jefferson Parish who has stood up their crisis intervention team, the goal of which is to more fully equip the deputies with a lot of the resources that are available. Mental health is a problem across the parish.
Absolutely.
I think it goes hand in hand with substance abuse. Not a family in the parish that's not affected by it in some way. And the more comfortable we get with identifying the problem, the better off we're going to be with resolving the problem. We also did a inventory of our inmate population shortly after I took over on the 1st of July. I wanted to know what the status of mental health was in the inmate population. And of course, we're a pretrial detainment facility. We're not a prison, so we don't have anybody that's supposed to be here long term. So it's a constant rotation of people in and out. The biggest lesson for me was that we needed to do a better job when we go through our intake process, because there's resources available for people with mental health issues.
Right.
But if the screening officer doesn't identify it when people are booked in, then it's hard to plug in somebody to the resources that are available. So it's like pattern recognition. If you know what to look for, you're going to be more able to clearly identify it, and then we can put you in touch with the people that are going to actually help you out.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I was curious about that because, with mental health being a buzzword, I know these days, a buzz phrase, at least these days, but it's like you said, it's not a family around here that's not affected by it in some type of way. So with you guys always being in the midst of conflict resolution or dealing with, disputes with family and things of that nature, I was just curious to know if they've had any training to properly deal with an individual that they come up on that might be schizophrenic or that, might have some type of severe mental issue, to where they can handle it in a nonviolent way, but also a safe way, approach it at least in a nonviolent way and understand the symptoms and to be able to resolve the situation in a much more healthy manner.
Yeah, we also have body cams on all of our deputies, and we use the body cam footage as a way to go back and train and debrief. I know that there's a belief that, well, you can't Monday morning quarterback it, but I don't know. Every team I've ever played on, that's exactly what you did. On Monday morning, you go back and look at game film. And say, hey,
Watching
I
film.
could have done that better. That's the whole point. And it has been helpful. And I think most people also in the parish would be pretty proud of the way the deputies handle most of the situations. And you got to understand, you're rolling up on a situation that is very chaotic at times. Everybody's telling you their side of the story. You're not really sure who to believe. You're trying to mediate a conflict that may go back, in some cases, years and decades with some of these families. Right. Everybody's trying to, and there's also a certain industry. There's a certain belief that we can use the police to try to get back at my ex-wife or try to get back at my husband. And, you're putting a 20-year-old, 22, 23-year-old deputy who doesn't have a lot of life experience right in the most dynamic, emotional types of events.
Right.
I'm just trying to give them as much life experience and training and education as I can in a short amount of time.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Yeah.
Now, let me
go ahead, Kel.
No, he had mentioned the type of facility that the jail is in Franklinton. So I want to kind of touch on a report back in August, I think it was by WDSU, about the jail conditions. I think you were quoted saying that the doors were removed, and I think all that happened prior to you becoming a sheriff. But what are those conditions like now, and has anything changed as far as just the doors and the conditions in the jail?
Well, my disclaimer up front is that I'm obviously biased. Since I've been here since July, I'm going to tell you that things have gotten better. To get a true answer, somebody that's unbiased, you'd have to talk to somebody that's being housed here or somebody that works downstairs in the jail. But I honestly do think that things have gotten better. We've still got a long way to go. The problem with the jail is there's a bunch of different issues involved in it. The first is just the geographic location. We're in downtown Franklinton, which presents some security issues. It presents some evacuation problems if we needed to. It provides some egress or access issues. We're also on the banks of the river, so we're slowly sinking into the river. Foundationally, there's some structural problems. And then also it subjects us to flooding. We had a significant flood in 2016. And the way the weather has happened over the last few years, it's only getting worse, and it's only reasonable to expect that flooding will happen in the future. The building itself was built the same time as Rayburn, I think the same year as Rayburn and Bogalusa City Jail, but those two facilities are in far better condition from a physical standpoint than ours. And it's just years of neglect. I think one of the things that I was frustrated with is that the jail for many years has been kind of an afterthought. It was just a place where we put people, and as long as we didn't hear from them, it wasn't a problem. I wasn't content for that to be the case. We only have 144 beds in the jail, and as of today, I think we have 226 inmates. So it's very overcrowded. And to some people, that's a feature, not a bug. They think, jail's not supposed to be a nice place, which could be true. But even if they had the inmates had been in front of a judge and had been sentenced to prison, the punishment is supposed to be the restriction of your liberty, not living in inhumane conditions or over conditions. The other thing is that living in a facility like that where it's overcrowded is very expensive. People will get stressed out when they're in close proximity to each other for any length of time. And so then that invariably leads to physical altercations, which invariably leads to somebody getting injured, which invariably leads to me having to send a deputy to a hospital and sit with somebody while they're getting treated, which means that's one less deputy that we can put on the road and protect the community from all the other things that are going on. We've made some significant improvements in just the operations of the jail. We're saving a lot of money in the kitchen. We're preparing meals instead of prepackaged stuff. We've gotten a lot of food that's been donated to us from the salvage store. We're buying bulk ingredients and fresh ingredients and preparing it downstairs. We've basically raised our expectations of the trustees, and they've taken some more ownership of the facility itself, which is good to see. And we're doing our best to clean it up, stripping the floors, repainting the walls, and things like that. We still got a long way to go, though. With a facility that's as overcrowded as ours is, one of the reasons why I wanted to try to move some of the inmates to a temporary location is so that we can clear out one cell block at a time and strip it down, clean it out, and then reintroduce everybody with a new standard of cleanliness and behavior expectations. The doors aren't coming back. The doors on the cells are gone. So we essentially have 4 open squad bays with people living in just general berthing. We've got cots in the middle and mats on the floor, and we've got a lot of people everywhere. I am optimistic that we can get a new jail in the foreseeable future. It's still several years away, but we've been working with Weyerhaeuser to get some property from in the center of the parish, because that's the other part of our geographic location that's a problem. Is we're located in Franklinton. Bogalusa is the largest municipality on the far eastern side of the parish. So anybody that's got a family member there has got to travel. Any law enforcement officers has got to drop somebody off, has got to travel. It's just logistically, it's more expensive to do that. So in the center of the parish would make more sense. And then we can have a facility that's designed to be more manageable from a staffing standpoint. It's got access to outdoor space. It's just going to be an easier facility to operate and maintain. The design of our building now would never get approved today, but that's what we're dealing with.
I know it happened before your time, but do you know why they were removed? Because I know like there was a documentary on Netflix or like a series called Unlocked, but that was more like an experiment, to see if inmates can coexist together. But do you know why they were removed before you got there?
The story that I heard was that they didn't work properly and that some of the inmates were closing the doors and doing nefarious things behind the doors. And, we didn't have the ability to go in there and do it. So we just took the doors down and then ended up disposing of them. I don't know if that story is true or not, but I do know the doors aren't here and they're not coming back. It would be cost prohibitive to put doors back on. And I don't think it really fits the nature of our operation now. I think the benefit of a show like Unlocked is that sheriff there approached it from a different standpoint by looking at people as people and gave them some responsibility and said, hey, these are the expectations. We're going to do this, and that means that you're going to have to behave in this way. And as you watch that show, there are some people that step out of line and do some negative things, and then privileges are revoked. But by the end of the show, things seem to be operating like they're supposed to be operating. I think that we're kind of in that boat now. We're living unlocked every day because that's essentially what they did. They gave people access to the common area of the day room for the whole thing. I would like to see a second season of that show in the same location to see how, to see a year on or 2 years on what the results have been. If they stuck with it, what were the lessons that they learned from it? What things would they have changed? What would they have done differently? But that facility itself was in a far better physical condition than ours is.
Are you seeing like fights breaking out or?
No, we have a fairly safe facility. I'm just saying that from a physical standpoint, like they didn't have anybody living, like physically sleeping in the day room, whereas our day room is full of people. Like I'm actually very impressed with our staff downstairs, the amount of control that they've got. Like I think that the way that they deal with people shows because we don't have a lot of fights. The things that we have are just the result of people living next to each other for days and days and days. It's not anything really substantial.
I think this is like a perfect segue into speaking on the bonding process and the back and forth you see on social media about booking photos and, people feeling like, the sheriff's office only posts a certain race, and can you get into that and actually what that process is like and what is your take on the debate of the mugshots?
Yeah, I'll start with the mugshots first. There's several different philosophies on whether or not people should post mugshots. I think the law had changed a couple times where mugshots were required to be posted and then they weren't required to be posted. We're required to make them publicly available, but it's up to me to decide if we're going to publish them out there, if that makes sense. Like every photo of anybody that's booked in is available on our website, but that's different than me putting out a post on Facebook with the picture on there. I am a big believer, and I've gone back and forth on this. We just started on the 1st of July, and so there were things that were in place that weren't really tightened up like they should have been. The policy now, let me just tell you what the policy is now. I won't post a picture in a Facebook post of anybody that's booked in. I'll make a notice or make a public announcement that so-and-so was arrested, those were the charges, and we're going to leave it just like that. And then if somebody wants to look up the photo and make sure that it's a different name, like we have a lot of people with the same names in the parish, so very often somebody will get accused of being arrested and they weren't, so people can go to the website and look and see if that's the person they're looking for. It's just a difficult situation because everybody that's booked into jail is presumed innocent until they get in front of the judge. And so we try not to revel in there. I don't want to take pleasure in the misfortune of others. You get booked into the jail is not a high point in anybody's life. There's a certain amount of public information that we're required to release, but I'm not going to take pleasure in posting. And we haven't been consistent since I took over. We've kind of felt our way forward, but this is the way it's going to be from this point forward.
So when you say you, like when you say you, are you talking about on your sheriff account, or are you saying as the sheriff's office page? I don't know if people are saying that actually you are doing it or if the sheriff page is doing it. Or are you saying that the Washington Parish Sheriff's Office Facebook page won't do that anymore?
Yeah, the Washington Parish Sheriff's Facebook page will not post a photo with booking information. Like we're not going to be publishing inmate photos on the Facebook site. We haven't done it for a little while now. There will be inmate photos on the website itself. It all links together. So when you get booked into the jail, your photo is automatically uploaded into the website. It's part of the public information that's available. But we're not going to, if somebody wants to go look for it, they can find it because it's publicly available information.
Now, if y'all do that, they're going to come for you, Sheriff.
Well, no, listen, that is, our website gets hits all the time, and it's all people going to the website looking for inmate photos. That's all people want to look at for some reason.
Can you speak to what the reason you said people Kel was saying that people was feeling like that it wasn't a fair balance between black and other nationalities getting posted. It seems that it was only one culture as far as black people being with their mugshots posted. Could you speak to that a little bit? Was that any truth to that, or was it just people looking for something to be upset about?
It's hard for me to say what people are thinking. I know what the perception is. I think the one that caused the most angst amongst people was when the mayor was arrested and we posted his mugshot on Facebook. That was just a result of us being overwhelmed by all the news crews. It's like if somebody notable is arrested, that's what they're going to focus on. And so that was the reason for that being posted. And we tried to follow it up and be consistent and publish some other mugshots, over the subsequent weeks. But I just felt like that wasn't what we need to be doing. We don't need to be in the business of that. So in the future, we just decided we're not going to post anybody's mugshot. Statistically, I think our jail is about 50-50 white black in terms of inmate population. Statistically, on the photos that were published, I'm not really sure. We had some technical issues early on with our website and then the Facebook account, and I hired a new information operations officer. So a lot of it was growing pains as we were getting started from July to the end of the year. I'm a lot more comfortable with the process now, and I can confidently say that's the way it's going to be in the future.
All right. So who's responsible? If I can ask that, do you have somebody that's solely responsible for posting that was responsible for posting the pictures or the information to the website, or do you have any hand in that do you have to, validate or anything before it goes up?
No, I check any press release that goes out. I want it to go through me first. because as we're getting started here with the sheriff's administration, I'm trying to make sure that people see things the way that I see things. There's certain language. I want things to read a certain way. I want it to focus on information. I don't want it to be distracting. So if you're looking for somebody to be responsible for what we're putting out, it's going to be me.
Okay. Yeah. And I just want you to kind of put that out because, a lot of and what I've noticed about you so far is that you kind of you say what you had control over, and whatever you didn't, you just kind of like, look, I can't tell you about that. So I want people to hear that coming from you, because people are still going to be looking for why there was a discrepancy between the two, and I want you to have that opportunity to say, like, hey, if it was one, it wasn't me directly, putting those type of things out. That wasn't my intention. That wasn't my goal. So that's why I was kind of asking the question. And I can't force you to answer something that you don't know, but I know that people are from that answer are going to say, oh, he's just trying to avoid the fact that there was a racial bias, with the post. So that's the only reason I was asking the question in that way.
Well, I mean, you know how Facebook is. There's a lot of people that will say all kinds of things, and you don't really know what they're thinking, and some of them aren't the best communicators. I'm not going to get in a running Facebook battle with somebody. Like, you can say whatever you want about me. It's not going to trigger me, because you're arguing from a position where you don't have all the information.
Right.
And I don't have all the information about the person that's posted. I'm more than willing to have conversations and say, hey, this is something you did not consider. All I can do is tell you these are the things. I'm not above making a mistake, but this is where we're headed with that particular issue. I think the other thing you had asked me about was the bonding issue, and I think what most people don't understand, I think people want it. They'll say things very often like, why is this person getting special treatment and this person not getting special treatment? They'll compare different crimes to somebody else booked on the same crime. But what people don't understand is that every person that gets booked into the jail has got different circumstances. Some people have criminal records. Some people are first-time offenders. Some people are 72. Some people are 22. Some people have a history of drug use. Some people don't. So the commissioner that sets the bond takes all that into account. And then the other thing is that you can also have an arrest warrant put on you, which means that your attorney just like OJ could turn himself in, has the ability to negotiate with the commissioner before you get booked in. So people have been upset that some people are allowed to book in and book out on the same day, and other people are booked in and then have to wait for the commissioner to set bond within 72 hours. It's just the process, the way it's set up, and I'm not saying it's completely fair, but anytime you get people involved in it, you got to account for all the variables and individual circumstances for everybody that's in there. But I don't set the bonds. I guess I should have said that up front. I don't have anything to do with setting bonds.
Please say that. Please clear that up.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I can appreciate about you just from having this conversation with you is I don't feel like you shied away in any type of way of, saying that certain things are not fair, but there's just a state of where things are right now. I feel like people can digest that way better than some fairy tale. So I do appreciate, just like you just made a statement like, hey, it's not fair, but that's when you have people, you're dealing with different people and their ideas and how they look at life. And like you said, some are insecure, some are self-centered. So a lot of those decisions and things that we made have a lot of different moving pieces. But I do appreciate, your directness when it comes to not trying to placate to just saying what people want to hear. I think that's the first step in trying to correct a lot of the issues that we have going on is accountability. Speaking of that, and that's what I was speaking to earlier when I was talking about Black people, because that's one of the things that our culture have a problem with that I'm on to them about. And that's something that I always want people, because I've gotten a lot of pushback from a lot of the white culture about, my disdain or my hate for white. And it is not, it's just the fact of the matter. I just like to call a spade a spade. I'm really hard on my culture about why. This is why I was driving a point home so hard earlier when you was talking about making sure that everything is properly in its place, because that's something that we do as a culture drop the ball on. We also are very entitled in a lot of situations. We also hate accountability in a lot of those situations. So
most people hate accountability, though.
Yeah, it's true. You know what I'm saying? But I'm speaking primarily from the issues that we're having with our community. And that's what So hearing that truth is important, because that's the only way I feel like to move forward. And you was asking about what are solutions to move forward is for everybody to start holding themselves accountable for what it is that they are doing or not doing to make this process work. So I appreciate 100%, first of all, you coming on, because a lot of times people of your position, your status, your power will not take this time out to give us a whole hour of information. So I really do. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the directness, man. You have my vote from here on out from just off of that alone, so
I
I really
appreciate that.
appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
Let me say this, Drew, because I agree with what you're saying, and I want people back home, because I'm listening to you all talk, and I know how people can take what you just said out of context, because
What?
they look at, and I'm gonna be transparent and blunt. They're like, I can't believe Drew is up here talking about our culture with this white man, and I know that, but I want them to understand. Just listen to what he said. Listen to what he said before you come off with emotion and think that, okay, maybe that is something we need to do. Just hear him out, because I know at home that's what they may be thinking.
Oh, well, that I'm more along the lines. I don't really care. I don't really, because if you have an issue with if you have an issue with accountability, you have an issue with progress. Period. Now if me working with individuals or working alongside individuals that can actually make true change for not just the Bogalusa, not just our community, but just our parish and place overall, then you don't really have educated outlook on what it's going to take in order to make this thing work. Now, I mean, like I said, I just believe in accountability, and no matter if you white, black, or whatever. So that's why I state what I feel like white people, I feel like that they should be focusing on, and I also state what I feel like us as a culture we need to be focused on. There's no bias between the two, So if you have an issue with that, I'm sorry. It is what it is.
No, I think I said this during the campaign, is that I think there's more that unites us than divides us across the parish. Like
Right.
the white kid in Mount Hermon has got more in common with the black kid in Bogalusa than he
Mhm.
realizes.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, we try to collectivize people, and we think that they're worlds apart. I mean, there's different cultural differences
Mhm.
between the two, but at the end of the day, a 15-year-old is a 15-year-old and is struggling to a greater or lesser degree than a lot of the same things that any of the 15-year-olds are struggling with.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you mentioned the campaign, so that's another segue. I remember I was coming from Franklin for something, and I saw one of your campaign signs, and it was, "We see you, Bogalusa, help is on the way." And I thought that was like genius, because at the time you had shootings left and right in Bogalusa. And so what was your approach? How did you look at Bogalusa prior to you becoming a sheriff, and what did you want to change from what you were seeing that was happening in the news?
Well, I guess the first thing is I've spent more time on the east part of the parish in the last 2 years than I ever have in my entire life. Like, I didn't have a lot of familiarity or experience in Bogalusa, in Angie, and Varnado. There wasn't any real reason for me to come out this way. What I wanted to change, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to change, because I didn't know much about the situation in Bogalusa other than the things that are reported on the news. And unfortunately, the news has a tendency to focus a lot on negative things, a lot on hysterical things, things that are exciting or abnormal because they want to try to sell a story. So I didn't have any intimate knowledge of the shootings that was going on, but it was fairly obvious that Bogalusa had a significant drug problem. It's got a significant violent crime problem, which I think those things have gotten better in the last 2 years. But how was I planning on helping that? I wasn't entirely sure. What I was sure about that was that I was committed to trying to get involved. One of my frustrations with the previous administration was that I felt as if, because the situation in Bogalusa was a tricky one politically, and because Bogalusa has its own mayor, its own city council, and its own police force, that a sheriff was it was more convenient for a sheriff to sit on the sidelines and say, hey, that's a town's problem. They've got their own mayor, they've got their own city council, they've got their own police force, and therefore it's not my issue to try to sort out. But I can read a map. I know Bogalusa is in Washington Parish. So why wouldn't I get involved? There's nothing preventing me as the sheriff from getting as involved in Bogalusa as I want to be, except that I may have to work with a mayor, a city council, and a police force and try to sort this out. I'm not happy with my level of involvement in Bogalusa. I think that
What
there's
causes
still.
that?
What's that?
What causes the relationship? Because that was going to be my next question. Like, what is that relationship like? So how can you get more involved, or why aren't you?
Well, the relationship is fine, and I think we are involved. I actually had met with a couple people during the campaign, and my thoughts on how to crack the code in Bogalusa from a security standpoint. That's fine if that's all I had to do to focus on. What I underestimated, I think, was a lot of the things that distract me from focusing primarily on Bogalusa. There's just a lot of other things that are pulling my attention away, and we're still trying to build a culture within the sheriff's office. One of my assumptions when I took this role, like we've talked a little bit about culture, we've talked about dealing with people, with individuals, and the people that with a shared culture are going to be able to influence and be able to resolve conflicts. And so one of my goals when I took over as sheriff was to find people that were able to communicate to people in the parish. And we have a disparity right now. We have a deficiency in the number of black deputies that we've got on the road. So my question to both of you is, how do we fix that? How do we get more black deputies that are interested in coming into law enforcement and specifically working for the sheriff's office?
If that's the question posed, my point of view on it is we have to first correct the outlook on what it means to be law enforcement or what it means to be a policeman. There's such a negative connotation to being a policeman in a black culture until a lot of the young men, even though that they might secretly want, they never will because of the ridicule that they'll face whenever they come back home or whenever they, come back to those families. They're never going to be accepted or they're never going to be loved or treated the same exact way. Simply because of, like I said, the negative connotation that surrounds it in the black community. So I feel like a lot of it starts with changing the narrative of what it means to be a policeman or what it means to be a deputy or what it means just to be law enforcement in general, which means repairing that relationship with the community, which was a lot that's what I was speaking on, earlier, of interactions have to become better between the two. Instead of it always being we only see law enforcement whenever they're taking my uncle away or whenever they're taking my dad away or whenever they locking my cousin up. That's the only interactions in our community that we have. Other than that, we never see them. Or they're never going to come through. And I know it sounds corny, but playing basketball with a group of kids or stopping by the local schools or, local events just for the positive aspect of it, playing pickup games, having different events to where children growing up now, the generation that now is shot. You might as well let that one go. But the kids that are coming up, if they see from an early age and have these positive outlooks of law enforcement, I feel like that would change a lot of their outlook of what it is that they want to be, moving forward. But I honestly feel like that relationship has to be fixed because it is broken at this point, which is probably why you don't see that influx of, black deputies. That's just my personal, opinion and outlook of what I've seen.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think it's to Drew's point, is what you've seen in the past. It's how you were treated when you were pulled over. It's when I look at black officers that I know, my entire fraternity chapter back in Lafayette, they are all in criminal justice and law enforcement. They're all officers and sheriffs back in Acadiana, right? But they went off to school and they took that up. And I think we should be able to get to that point to eventually erase that stigma. But I think the sheriff's office and the Bogalusa Police Department plays a role in erasing that stigma because they created it.
Well, we're working on it. We're not there yet, but we're working on it.
I don't know, Drew. You see black people in the fire department in Bogalusa. So what created that? Like, honestly, never thought about it.
Well, I mean, like I said, we got to think about firemen, though. Firemen always have the positive outlook on communities when it comes to kids don't see firemen as dragging away their uncles, and they're not saying that their uncles shouldn't be drug away. Putting cuffs is just the fact that they only see them when it's something negative happening. So you're going to always, because of the culture, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm about accountability too.
I was just about to go to that point.
Yeah, I'm about accountability 100% too, so a lot of it has to do with, our culture within itself when it comes to music and how we put it in the music, the negativity of law enforcement and things of that nature. But I'm speaking solely to the solution. I feel like the solution has to come with deputies and officers alike that are taking that first step or reaching out their hand across the aisle to say, "Hey, we're not just the big bad guys." So, if you're asking for solutions, when you have, for instance, like I don't remember seeing officers that are the BPD or sheriff's office at career days. I've never seen that. To where kids even know that there's even an option. I'll tell you this: there's a lot of black soldiers because of their prevalence in high schools and things of that nature when it comes to the Navy. And I used to want to be an Army Ranger when I was a kid because of the recruiter that came to our school. He didn't just come in and just give us a spiel about what it takes to be a ranger. He did that, and then he came outside and played two-hand touch football with us for like a week. So it was just, there was a lot more prevalent and a lot more present in shaping, when we was the most impressionable at that age, in shaping that, hey, this could be a positive thing. So if my solution to that, if you're speaking to that, is being more prevalent in the younger culture, black culture's lives in a positive manner, giving them that option.
Let me say this, because I don't want his question to be kind of directed back to him, because I think that's how my answer kind of was. I don't want it to be directed back to the sheriff, because you made a point about being solution based. So I want to ask both of you, as far as percentages, what do you think the percentage is, like the reason why you don't see that many black police officers, especially in our parish? Do you think it's our culture saying we don't F with the police? What do you think is that? And do you think it is the actual sheriff department's fault? What is it? Is it 75% black people just don't like the police because of them seeing their uncle being carried away, because they're being taught in music? Or do you think it's 25% the actual police department?
I think it's a little bit simpler than that, if I'm honest. And the sheriff's office, historically, there is no sheriff's office really. The only constitutional position is the sheriff, and the office can be as big or as small as the sheriff wants it to be. So the reason I bring that up is because historically, in a place like Washington Parish that's been very rural, and government or jobs were hard to come by, government jobs are a little bit easier to come by, and the sheriff's position became a position by which to wield influence. He would surround himself with people that he knew. That's just kind of how it goes. It's still, we're trying to break out of that mindset now, trying to make sure that it's an operationally based culture. I think that's part of the reason why you'll see the prevalence of black police officers in the municipal police departments in Frankton, but at least at a higher rate than you will, at least on the road here in the sheriff's office. But we're working to correct that. But the second thing I think that doesn't get as appreciated is a problem that we saw on display when we were in Iraq trying to work with local security forces there, is that the guys that live there were very reluctant to be police officers in their hometown. It's difficult at times to try to hold people that you know or that you're related to or they're going to look down on you. You talk about accountabilities. It's hard to hold people accountable when you have a relationship with them at a deeper level. You need to have some knowledge of them. There's a guy named Dale Brown, not the LSU basketball coach, but he's actually a black guy in Detroit, and he works a lot with trying to train police officers in a lot of different techniques. And one of the things that he recommends is counter to things that I think people take for granted. Is there's a push, I think, for police officers to live in the community in which they police. But his position is you should not live in the community in which you police because you need a chance to decompress, and you don't want to form these personal relationships that are going to cause you to compromise your integrity or make bad decisions. And it's not a black-white thing, because we have white police officers that struggle with the same thing. When you are called to your mama's house or your aunt's house or your ex-wife's house for whatever reason, you just can't go. Like, you got to step aside and do it. Somebody else has got to step up. I think all of these things kind of affect the situation. None of them are going to be the single solution. I think you probably hit closest to the target when you talked about we've got to influence the kids today and get them to view law enforcement, and especially the sheriff's office, in a different light. We're going to be running a camp this summer for kids and forcing that interaction on a more positive level, giving them some other things to do over the summer, some positive ways. I'm trying to get more involved in the schools, both in Bogalusa City and in Washington Parish schools. And we've got to be deliberate about recruiting, going to these criminal justice programs and talking to the guys that are going through those programs and say, listen, this is what we're looking for. Are you part of that or not? There's a lot of benefits to being a sheriff's deputy in Washington Parish. We've just got to sell people on it. We've got to explain it. We've got to promote ourselves.
Are you hiring right now?
We are.
Have you all reached out to like the school systems, Bogalusa City schools, as far as trying to implement some type of program to increase visibility or something like that?
Not Bogalusa City, but we're talking to Washington Parish schools. Like Bogalusa City's got their own police force, and that's going to be a second phase kind of operation. I do want to get involved in Bogalusa City schools. We're not there yet. Washington Parish schools, we've got school resource officers that are assigned to the sheriff's office that are working with Washington Parish schools, and we've got a meeting coming up with them to kind of more clearly define that relationship. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And I mean, if anything, it's going to help solve some of the crimes. Like one of the benefits of the DARE program, and I know there's a lot of detractors of it, but it put law enforcement officers in a position to talk to kids on a daily basis. And so if you have a kid that's struggling with something and he doesn't know who else to talk to or what else to do, he's got a personal connection with a law enforcement officer, somebody that can maybe help him sort through the issue. And plus, who likes to talk more than kids? If we got some property comes up missing, the kids will figure it out. They'll know. They'll talk. They can't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, no, I think that's you spoke about the DARE program, which is funny because I was thinking about that when I was referring to, and I meant to say that when I was referring to them being present in the schools, how that they were always around, coming in teaching those lessons. They was always prevalent, always present, and I think and that hearing that is reassuring to know that that is coming down the pipe to be more involved, in
And I know
everything.
there's probably police officers listening to this thing and hey, the DARE program didn't work, and there were some problems with the funding sources and the way it was maybe executed, and maybe it didn't keep a lot of kids off drugs. I don't really know, but my point only is that if we can look for ways for police officers to interact with kids in a positive way, we're going to be a lot closer to solving this thing than
Here, yeah, you're right, and like I know, I understand the whole DARE program, the optics of it. What I'm speaking of solely is how we felt about it as kids. As many jokes as made about it, we loved the DARE program as kids. We did. So I don't really care about the adult aspect of how they looked at it from a business standpoint, and then as far as the effective nature, you're never going to save everybody, but the DARE program helped a lot of kids that I know specifically. I still quote some of the things that I learned in a DARE program. I mean so that concept, I don't really care about that. It's just the fact that somebody was there that actually cared enough to take the time, and I think that's what's missing now from law enforcement just in general, is the fact that they're present at those early stages in life to get that positive outlook. And there's no better time than now, because there's not, and I probably get a lot of flack for this, but there's way too many women teachers in education. There are no males. There's no balance. There's no masculine presence at all, like traditional masculine presence at all in school systems. And you need that. That's important, because a lot of these younger individuals don't have that masculine presence at homes. That you never know.
No,
like
you're
you said,
exactly right. In any culture throughout the history of the world, violence is caused by essentially 15 to 25-year-old men. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, Italian, Egyptian, that's who's causing the problems. And we have a generation of young men that are essentially growing up without positive male role models in a lot of ways. I'd actually talked to Dr. Hurst, and we haven't put this into practice yet. This is because I just hadn't had the time to devote to it yet. But I think there's an opportunity for us to step into that gap in the school systems and talk directly to a male group of students. And I'm not sure what age group it is. I mean, my wife is a public school teacher, and she seems to think that you got to get them before they're about sixth grade, before they really stay focused. But talk to them about what are their responsibilities as they grow up to be young men. Talk to them about legal literacy, like interactions with the police. Just kind of coach them through all these things that nobody else is really coaching them through. Absolutely. Make poor decisions, because we were all young and we made poor decisions when we were their age too.
Yeah. It's
The,
heavy on the legal literacy too, because I'm gonna shut up because I'm gonna let Kev go, but that legal literacy is huge when it comes to them just understanding what they have the right to, what they don't have the right to, in a lot of these situations, and avoid a lot of those negative altercations that they have with law enforcement. I'm sorry, Kev, go ahead. I promise I'm gonna shut up, man.
no, you good. No, I was gonna say, because his question is still in my mind, because you don't hear that question often in the black community of why you don't see black officers, right? And I can only think of why did you see, and in my case, why are a large group of my frat brothers in law enforcement? And it's because they went off to college and they learned criminal justice, and that was, I have a frat brother lives here in Houston, police officer. They're full in Lafayette, they're full in Acadian, like they're everywhere. And I think it is maybe creating that class. It's creating a criminal justice class now. When younger kids grow up, it's not always seeing their loved one in handcuffs. It's actually learning the law. It's actually learning rules. They may not end up being a police officer, but they may become an attorney. I think we need to introduce that to our young group. Drew said we lost a generation now, but there's a generation that's going to come behind it that, you may see it then.
That's right.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Right.
All right. Early voting begins tomorrow with a very controversial amendment, Amendment 3. And I want to read it just so I'm clear on everything and everybody understands what's at stake here. So already in Louisiana, juveniles can be charged as adults if they commit an established list of crimes. So a yes vote of this amendment will support allowing the state to determine which felony crimes can result in a juvenile being tried and can include non-violent crimes, while voting no opposes allowing the state to determine which felony crimes can result in an individual under the age of 17 being tried as an adult, retaining the current list of crimes. So ultimately, if you vote yes, you allow the state to add to that list. And if you vote no, the list will stay the same. So understanding that your department, the sheriff's office, enforces the law, I want to get your take and your opinion on, what do you think about this being opening up? How did this happen? And just your opinion on it.
Well, I actually had a conversation with the incoming director of the Sheriff's Association about this very issue because I'm concerned from a logistical standpoint. We have a problem already in Louisiana with 17-year-olds and their status. We've essentially created a third class of inmate in our prisons or in our jails. So 17-year-olds in Louisiana are now tried as adults, but we're not allowed to house them with adults due to the Prison Rape Elimination Act at the federal level. So anytime we have a 17-year-old that comes into our facility, we have to segregate them by sight and sound. And of course, we talk about the status of our jail or the conditions of our jail. We're so overcrowded that it's really hard to do, and it creates other problems. If we put more juveniles in a position where they're going to be tried as adults, that increases the burden on the local jurisdictions to house people that, we would not ordinarily have to house. And we also have a juvenile criminal justice system. We have in Florida parishes, we have a regional juvenile detention facility that's, it's state of the art. They really do a very good job of catering to the juveniles that find themselves in there with educational services and mental health counseling and behavioral counseling. And they do a very good job for what they do. But the question really comes down to, is it a good thing or a bad thing to have more crimes that we can allow juveniles to be tried as adults? Philosophically, I would say no. It came about because in a couple of jurisdictions, there were a couple of kids that were under the age of 17 that were significantly violent, and they would go through the juvenile justice system and then end up out again. And as soon as they were out, they were killing somebody or doing some violent crimes. And the only thing that ever really made a difference was when they finally turned 17 and were able to be tried as adults. So the feeling was if you were able to give district attorneys another tool by which to handle these unique cases, that we might go a long way towards solving the violent crimes that's happening in most of the rural parishes. And that's really, I think, was the genesis behind it. I can't speak for places like Orleans Parish or Jefferson Parish, even Baton Rouge or Shreveport. I don't know what they're dealing with, but I know in certain places in Louisiana, there's only a few people that are causing a lot of the problems, and there was a push to try to get those people dealt with in a significant way to kind of keep peace in the community.
Drew, you had anything on that one?
No, I was kind of, I felt as if that was probably the goal.
And the only thing that makes me feel halfway good about it is even if we have the ability to charge somebody as an adult, doesn't mean that we have to. I'm on record as saying I don't think we need to charge more juveniles as adults. And if people are upset about it if it passes, I mean, the goal, and this is the benefit of local politics, is you can hold us accountable, hold people accountable at the local level if you don't feel like we should be charging juveniles as adults.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when it comes to these type of things, is heavily based on experience. And when it comes to what somebody have experienced, because I could talk to some people, and because they never went through a situation where it's not my child, so it's like, yeah, let's do it this way. This is gonna get everybody, this is gonna fix all issues and stuff. But it's totally different if it happens to someone in your family. So I think we have to exercise empathy in this situation to know, like, hey, you can't just throw everybody in this bag and feel like, oh, this is an end all be all, because every case is different. So I think a lot of people have this reaction of, this will solve everything across the board, when I honestly feel like it's going to create way more problems than solve them. Because, like I said, a lot of these cases have to be handled on a case by case situation. We talked about, where someone is coming from, where a juvenile might be coming from, what they've dealt with, what type of mental state are they in, what type of situations are they dealing with. So to just, throw them under this umbrella. And like you said, in rural areas, we're talking about a very few people that are causing the issues, not, across the board, with not dealing with this every single day. So, so absolutely not. I'm staunchly against that approach. That's just my personal opinion, though, when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'll place these on the screen as far as what yes means, what voting yes means, and what voting no means. But like I said, early voting begins tomorrow. Make sure everybody gets out and votes and gets that done. But the actual election, I believe, is March 29th. But I'll put that information up. The kids you hear growing up, Drew, um, they're the future. So at some point, you know, you have to look at rehabilitation and try to prevent it before they even get to 17, before they get to 16. You know, you can debate and go back and forth whether it begins at home, whether it begins, in the classroom, whatever it may be. But I'll put that information up though. Make sure everybody get out and vote. But we can close it out here, Sheriff. I want to thank you for coming on, man. We took a lot of your time tonight. You're a very busy man, but I really want to thank you for one, looking at episode 5, seeing what we were talking about, and being able to come on, be transparent, be vulnerable, and have that conversation with us, and get the message out there that people want to hear. Get those questions answered that many people in Bogalusa, Mount Hermon, and Parish want to know.
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. Next time I come on, we'll be a little bit more lighthearted, maybe. Think of as many serious subjects.
Yeah, and I want to.
I think it was necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. We had a little time where we weren't actually recording, and I told Drew, you had stepped away, but I told Drew, I was like, man, this conversation we just had off camera it was laughter. You know, everybody at home they aren't going to get a chance to see it, but Drew did say this needed to be serious. This needed to be a serious episode to get the point across. But we do want you to come back on, and if you have anything going on in the parish and you want to come on and talk about it, clear the air. You're already getting major views on your page. You don't need us at all. but if you want to come on and talk about it, man, if you hiring events, other deputies, anybody in Franklinton, if you want to come on and talk, you're most definitely welcome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do want to give him. I do want to give him floor one time. If you have anything that you want the community to know, or if you have anything, just in general that you want the people to know? Just overall, I do want to give you that opportunity to kind of wrap it up.
I think the thing that I continue to talk about when I get in front of people is that I really think that we've got the potential to do some great things in Washington Parish. We're not, we may be a product of our past, but we're not tied to it. We just have to get people to choose to do some different things. And it doesn't have to be everybody. It has to be a small group of committed people that are willing to put aside petty differences and not get emotional and just work through some issues. We've got a lot of things going for us. Just got to believe it. We got to get after it.
Well, definitely, I agree. Drew already said it. You got his vote, man. I don't live down there, Sheriff. I can't vote for you. But
Wasting all this time, can't believe it.
no. But you know what? I always have a camera for you, man. Anything you need in the media scope, I got you, man. I got you.
That's a deal.
But thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate you, and we'll have you back on real soon. Thank you, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Everybody, this is the final stop on the Night Train podcast, man. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see y'all on the next go.
All aboard the Night Train.